Good afternoon to all my friends, my colleagues, and respected seniors. Today I am here to discuss upon a very intrinsic topic, which is maintenance under the Hindu laws. This topic has far been debated and is of utmost concern to all the women who are deprived of their basic rights. The concept of maintenance under the Hindu laws basically attracts four laws talking about the Hindu maintenance. The first being the Code of Civil Procedure 1973 under section 125, in which any lady, any wife, parents, children can claim maintenance. The second being the Hindu Marriage Act 1955 under section 24 and 25, which talks about pendant light maintenance and permanent maintenance or permanent alimony. Thereafter, we have the Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act 1956, which came just a year later of the Hindu Marriage Act, and up to some extent overrides the maintenance sections of the Hindu Marriage Act 1955. We also have the Domestic Violence Act, under which a victim of domestic violence can claim maintenance under section 20 of the Act. So we'll be elaborating a little more on each and every provision, and I'll also try to distinguish between the different acts and how one can claim maintenance under the same. Starting with section 125, which is a universal law, irrespective of caste, being secular in nature. So whether a lady or a child or a parent, for that matter, as per the Act, claiming maintenance is a Hindu, is a Muslim, is a Christian, can all claim maintenance under section 125. But let us first try and understand what exactly is maintenance, and the closest definition that we try finding is under section 3B of the Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act 1956. This is the closest definition one can find as to what maintenance is about. So maintenance would include, as per section 3B, food, shelter, residence, clothing, as far as medical expenses of a person. Further, category subclause 2 of section 3B talks about the cases wherein there is an unmarried daughter and reasonable expenses up to for her upbringing and for a marriage. This is the basic definition which has been provided under the Hindu Adoption and Marriage Act for maintenance. This has been of lately, and with a lot of rulings and precedents, been elaborated upon the various high courts by the Supreme Court and by various other tribunals. Section 125, being secular in nature, is wherein a wife can claim maintenance under Section 125. I remember a judgment of the year 2004 passed by the Supreme Court, wherein the Supreme Court has held that Section 125 is a civil law, is an expeditious remedy which has been provided to the wives or anyone falling under the category of Section 125 claiming maintenance, which further elaborates upon the parents or the children. Further, the Supreme Court in one of the judgments has also held that it is a beneficial and a social piece of legislation, Section 125. There are certain exceptions to a woman who comes under Section 125 to claim maintenance. The first being that if a woman is found to be living in adultery, she cannot claim maintenance under 125. The second category can be a woman who, after a mutual agreement, is residing separately, would not be entitled to maintenance. Or a lady who, without a sufficient cause, has left the matrimonial house and is not residing with the husband. So these are the three exceptions that are carved out, wherein a woman is not entitled to claim maintenance under the provisions of Section 125. Further, as I have stated that this law is secular in nature, held time and again in 2014, 2015, that a lady who is professing Islam or anyone who is professing any other religion apart from a Hindu can come and claim maintenance under 125. It has been further stated and held by the court that a legally married wife, by a legally married wife, I would be defining further that what is the burden of proof that a lady needs to prove for being a legally married wife. Any illegitimate children from the second marriage or from the second wife are also entitled to maintenance. So the Supreme Court or the various high courts across the country have broadened the scope of Section 125. This is the basic provision under which one can go and claim maintenance in the court of law. Then we have the Hindu Marriage Act 1955, which is slightly different from the other three acts. Under the Hindu Marriage Act, either the spouse, whether he is a wife or the husband, can go and claim maintenance from the court. Section 24 and 25 are the sections under which one can claim maintenance. 24 specifically being interim maintenance and Section 25 being the permanent maintenance or the alimony. As far as the Hindu Marriage and Adoptions Act is concerned, 1956, it's an independent relief, unlike Section 125 of the court, of the CRPC. Herein, a wife can claim maintenance under Section 18 of the Act, under Section 19, in case the husband has predeceased the wife she can also claim maintenance from a father-in-law as per section 19 of the Act. Further, it talks about section 23, wherein the parents and the children are also brought into the ambit. Section 23 further elaborates upon the quantum of maintenance as to what parameters are to be seen by the court while adjudicating an application for maintenance. Section 25 talks about situations wherein maintenance has been granted by the court but can be altered. So there are various circumstances under which a maintenance which has already been awarded by a court can subsequently be altered by the court after considering those facts and circumstances. We proceed further. We have the domestic violence. The mandate of the Act talks about women who have been subjected to violence. The women who have been subjected to violence, whether in any form, whether it be mental, physical, sexual, emotional, can go file a petition under section 12 of the Domestic Violence Act, and under section 20 of the Act can ask the court for interim maintenance while the matter is sub judice, can also claim litigation expenses. The Domestic Violence Act was brought into effect by the legislature as an umbrella blanket for all those ladies violence. Under the Domestic Violence Act, not only maintenance, residence orders, protection orders can be sought from the court. And again, the domestic violence being a civil remedy. Under section 20, the maintenance is awarded by the court based upon the pleadings, based upon the material evidences, based upon the material proofs which are provided by the lady and also by the other spouse. Now the basic question that arises is as to how to decide upon the quantum of maintenance. There have been several judgments on the point which have been given by various courts which talk about the quantum of maintenance. The courts have to keep various parameters in mind while deciding upon the interim maintenance or the final maintenance that has to be decided, being the income of the spouses or the income of the parties, thereafter the status of the conditions under which they have been residing, the material proofs that are furnished by the parties before the court. These are the various parameters which the court keeps in mind while deciding upon the quantum of maintenance. The Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act 1956 and section 125 of the Code of Criminal Procedure are independent remedies which could be exhausted by a party irrespective of whether any other proceeding for maintenance is pending before the court or not. But by filing two different maintenance proceedings before two different forums does not entitle a party to claim maintenance twice. For example, if there is a domestic violence case pending before the learned metropolitan magistrate and the wife exercises an option of filing a section 125. So either of the courts which decides the maintenance first would bind the other court while deciding upon the said application. There is a judgment which says that maintenance under section 125 of the CRPC and section 20 of the Domestic Violence Act deciding upon the maintenance to be granted to a party can run parallelly. This was a judgment given way back in the year 1999 by the Honorable Supreme Court, and if I correctly remember, the judgment's name was Sudeep Chaudhary versus Radha Chaudhary. We go further. That in case of a petition pending under 125, the first condition is that it should be a legally married woman having legal binds and legal thread of marriage who can claim maintenance. But if the lady is able to prove that she's been residing as a husband and wife, or the parties are able to prove that they have been residing as husband and wife under the same shelter, she would be entitled to maintenance under 125. The presumption would operate in the favor of the wife. And this is the view that has been held by the Supreme Court in various cases. We have a judgment by the Delhi High Court wherein to decide upon a quantum of maintenance, the parties are directed to file an income affidavit. Kusum Sharma versus Mahinder Sharma is the judgment which is applicable in this regard, wherein the parties have been directed to file their respective income affidavit, which is a detailed affidavit consisting of income, expenditures, assets, whether movable, immovable, of the parties. So the income affidavit, in a way, helps the learned judge to assess the situation and to pass appropriate orders apart from the pleadings of the parties. Recently, in January 2020, the Punjab and Haryana High Court has also reiterated of Kusum Sharma and has directed all the district courts of Punjab and Haryana to call for income affidavit of the spouses. Now, how the question arises is, how do you argue or how do you plead maintenance? How do you impress upon the court for maintenance of a party? The first thing is, if I appear for the lady, let's take that instance first. If I appear for a lady, I file my income affidavit. The material factors to be considered by the court is the educational qualification, the income of the lady, whether she is working or not, whether any children are in her custody whom she is taking care about, the assets which are in the name of the lady, The expenditures that the lady incurs in upbringing the children and maintaining herself are to be elaborated upon the income affidavit. But on the contrary, the husband will also have to fill up the form or the income affidavit in a similar pattern and has to lead material evidences in order to defend himself. In a situation where the husband and wife are equally competent, equally qualified, have a decent earning, in that particular scenario, the maintenance that is fixed for the children, whether they are in the custody of the husband, whether they are in the custody of the wife, both the husband and the wife would be equally contributing towards the expenses of the child. So in a nutshell, the responsibility of upbringing a child or maintaining a child equally lies upon the shoulders of the husband and the wife. We proceed further. Let's try first analyze the basic difference between section 125, the Hindu Marriage Act, and the Hindu Adoptions and Maintenance Act. Section 125 of the CRPC is secular in nature, whereas the other two are not. In the other two, only a party professing Hindu religion can come and claim maintenance. Whereas in a section 18 of the Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act, a wife can claim maintenance and the burden is upon her to prove that the marriage is subsisting. Now this is important, that the marriage between the parties is subsisting when there is a claim which is filed under section 18 of the Hindu Adoption and Marriage Act. It's an independent relief, unlike section 25 of the Hindu Marriage Act. And under section 25 of the Hindu Marriage Act, either the husband or either the wife can claim maintenance. Whereas in the other two acts, it is only a wife or a child or a parent for that matter who can go and claim maintenance. Under section 25 of the Hindu Marriage Act, even a wife under a void marriage can claim maintenance. Whereas in the other two, the onus is to prove that a marriage is subsisting between the parties and there are legitimate grounds that the wife is unable to reside or stay with the husband under the same premise. That can be because of adulterous relation that a husband be might into, or the cruelty that is inflicted upon the husband, or for certain other enumerating reasons. As per section 4 of the Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act, section 25 is overridden by section 18 of the Hindu Adoption and Marriage Act. The basic difference is that the Hindu Marriage Act came in the year 1955 and similar provisions have been reiterated in the 1956 Hindu Adoption and Marriage Act. So by claiming a relief under section 4, section 18 would override section 25 of the Hindu Marriage Act. And section 25 or section 24 is not an independent remedy one can exhaust. Now, where do you file a case as a layman, or as a practicing lawyer, one usually files a case either before the family court, wherein if a divorce is filed or a judicial separation is filed, an additional application under section 24 is filed with the petition. The domestic violence case or a section 125 CRPC is filed before a metropolitan magistrate, but merely because the same is filed before a metropolitan magistrate would not make it a criminal proceeding. All these remedies of maintenance are civil in nature, filed before the concerned courts, wherein a maintenance application is decided, subject to challenge before the higher forums. Only an order which has been passed by the family court under section 25 or section 24 of the Act can be directly challenged before the High Court. Or for that matter, provisions of the HAMA may be challenged. Maintenance provisions under HAMA can be directly challenged before the High Court. Whereas an order which has been passed under section 125, which is also listed before the family court, can be challenged by way of revision before the High Court, and the application under section 20, which is adjudicated under the domestic violence court, would be challenged before the session court. There have been numerous pronouncements in regard to as to how the courts have to consider, go into the depth of the matter, understand the position of the parties, and decide upon the maintenance applications. Contrary views have also been held in regard to various aspects which have to be considered while deciding upon the maintenance. But again, it would depend upon the facts and circumstances of each case. A working woman, on one hand, has been held by the court, is not entitled to claim maintenance, but on the contrary, if her income is not sufficient for herself to maintain herself or the child who is in her possession, then the husband is bound to provide for maintenance. So these are basically the four broad acts under which a maintenance petition can be filed. Now let us quickly go through certain important pronouncements by the Supreme Court in regard to maintenance. I will be dealing with the basic definitions, the basic rulings, wherein what is maintenance, how it is to be considered, what are the parameters, has been held by the Supreme Court. Starting right as to what I had discussed earlier, the section 125 of the CRPC and the maintenance provisions under the Domestic Violence Act can run parallelly, which was held way back in the year 1999 by the Supreme Court. Moving further, there has been some kind of a relaxation that has been provided to a party or to an estranged wife, that there has to be merely a presumption by the court to adjudicate upon a maintenance application under 125. The strict condition of marriage is not a prerequisite for claiming maintenance under 125. This has been recently held by the court by the Supreme Court and also been reiterated by the various high courts. Further, Lalita Topo, which was a landmark judgment by the Supreme Court, wherein an estranged wife, a live-in partner, by using the word an estranged wife or by using the word a live-in partner, means that she is not a legally wedded wife, can also claim maintenance under the Domestic Violence Act. And it is on the contrary only a legally wedded wife which can claim a maintenance under section 125. The basic difference between the two is that anyone who is filing a petition under section 12 or under the Domestic Violence Act has to prove that the party is a victim of domestic abuse, domestic violence, which is the intent of the act. And under section 20, she can claim maintenance as per the parameters and guidelines which have been held by the court. In a recent judgment of 2014, the Supreme Court has categorically held that the maintenance provisions, more specifically section 125 of the Code of Criminal Procedure, is more of social justice, social piece of legislation, and should favor the lady who is suffering. Further, we go. Vijay Kumar Prasad, a good judgment of 2013 by the Supreme Court, has elaborated upon the remedy of section 125 to be civil in nature. We go further only because this provision has been enumerated under the Code of Criminal Procedure would not entitle it to be a criminal law. The remedy is civil in nature, and this is a basic understanding we should all have about the maintenance laws. Further, the Supreme Court in Nagrendrappa versus Neela Raman has held that the provisions of section 125 are summary in nature, enumerated for efficacious remedy to be provided to the lady. It's a speedy recovery to recover maintenance and should be proceeded in a summary manner. These days, the maintenance issues are immediately decided upon by the courts after the parties file their income affidavits. Now, the information which is put on paper in the income affidavit by either of the parties should be substantiated by material proof, whether it be the assets, the liabilities, the salary earned, should be supported along with the bank statements, the passbooks, appointment letter where the person is working, the employment contract. But the parties, in order to fiddle away, do not file all these requisite proof until and unless directed specifically by the court. On the contrary, to negate whatever has been filed by the other party, either of the party who is contesting the maintenance petition should file a proof contrary to the averments that have been made by a party in his income affidavit. So if a husband comes and submits before the court via income affidavit or via oral submission he makes to his counsel that he is unemployed or he is running a small time business, then it is the wife who is contesting for maintenance has to bring out substantial material evidence, substantial proof that the averments or the material particulars which have been submitted by the husband in his income affidavit are false. And on assessing and evaluating upon the evidence which is available on record, the court would decide upon the maintenance petition. The court at the first instance might not be aware about certain proofs, might not be aware about the capacities of the parties, but with the help of the income affidavits and the contentions that are made by the parties, comes out to a reasonable conclusion and passes an order. But does that mean that once an order of interim maintenance has been passed, the same would not be modified? The answer to which is no. There can be an application for modifying or amending the interim maintenance which has been granted on the ground of change in circumstances. So the maintenance can either be increased or the maintenance can be reduced by a substantial amount if the party is able to prove that there has been a change in the material circumstance and supported by strict proof of the same. So under these provisions, one can approach the Honorable Court, seek maintenance, from the court. Now I would like all the viewers to frame up questions or doubts which they have in regard to the same and can put across their questions so that they could be responded well in time. All my learned friends, colleagues are very well versed with this topic. I would request if there are any questions which I could help out or I can answer. Also, while I was seeing the present conditions of the court, there have been a lot of ladies who are struggling for their maintenance amounts, who are struggling for receiving their arrears, and due to the lockdown which has come in their favor, in favor of the husbands who are bound to pay the maintenance amounts. So I see that after the courts resume, there are lot many petitions wherein there would be a deduction, there would be a modification, or there would be a reappraisal of the order which would be sought by the husbands, and a lot of executions coming up on behalf of the lady wives claiming their arrears of maintenance in the court. So now we have a question which says that if the woman is not working but belongs to a very rich family, does it affect the maintenance which would be sought from the husband? The answer to this would be that the husband herein is bound to maintain a wife in the similar manner in the condition which he stays. So if a woman belongs to a rich family, that would not be an impediment upon a woman to claim maintenance from her husband, but as per the resources available with the husband, and the husband is bound to provide maintenance for a similar living or the same standard of living in which he is living. Any landmark judgment on equal maintenance and children, any landmark judgment on equal maintenance of children by husband and wife. Immediately I do not recall upon a judgment on the same, but there are various orders to that effect which say that the husband and the wife are equally responsible to maintain the child, and the onus is upon both of them to equally contribute towards the welfare of the child. Any more questions?
Question 18.
There is a question which is posed that what is the usual time for a maintenance application to be decided in the court? Well, there is no fixed time frame within which a maintenance application is decided. The endeavor of the court is to expeditiously decide upon the application after following due process and after giving opportunity to both the parties to submit their income affidavits, to submit their response, and to decide upon the quantum of maintenance. There is a question that comes is, what if the party does not file a necessary income affidavit? What are the legal implications? So if I talk about the procedure, or if I talk about the prevailing practices in the court usually grants 3 opportunities to the maximum to a party to file his income affidavit. Maybe if on the first occasion the income affidavit is not filed, there is a second opportunity that is given. Thereafter there is a third opportunity that is given. And when the opportunities are being given, the court may subject them to terms, that is cost, or may even close their rights and adjudicate upon the maintenance application filed by the party. Another question which comes is, can the petition be filed at this time by the wife, where the spouses are not cohabiting in the last 6 months? A petition under 125 can be filed by the wife if she is unable to maintain herself and has reasonable grounds, or has a reasonable justification, or has material proof that because of the conduct of the husband or because of certain other reasons she is not cohabiting with the husband and should be provided an alternate residence and maintenance to maintain herself. There is another question which we come across is a final order passed by the principal judge? Should we file an appeal or a revision petition to challenge the order? If it's a final order passed by the principal judge, You file a revision petition challenging that order before the High Court, assailing the impugned order, and also clarifying upon what was not adjudicated or what was not looked into categorically by the learned judge while deciding upon the maintenance application. And how much time does the whole procedure usually takes? The courts try to adjudicate upon this application as expeditiously as possible, but usually it takes about 6 months to an year for a maintenance application to be decided under a proper legal course. Suppose due to certain occasions which are beyond the counsel or beyond the learned judge, where in a situation where the courts are closed, or probably the judge does not preside over, or probably the counsel doesn't appear for the other party, or there is no effective service that has taken place, this procedure might be extended to a little, but then usually within 6 months to an year these applications are decided. If the husband fails in paying the amount of maintenance under section 125 as directed by the court, which otherwise amounts to its breach, what would be the remedy? Contempt of court or execution. Order that is given by the court wherein the husband is directed to file, whereas the husband is rather directed to pay an X amount of maintenance to the wife, and if he flouts in doing so, the appropriate recourse would be to file an execution petition before the court. And if a specific direction is flouted, as not qua the maintenance amount, but if there is a specific direction for a specific thing to be done by the spouse, the contempt would lie. But in mere matters wherein the maintenance amount is not paid, the remedy lies is to file an execution application for the pending amount. Can the court attach the property of the defaulting party if the maintenance is not paid? The answer to this is yes. The court sufficiently grants time for the husband to pay maintenance upon. In case the husband is unable to pay the maintenance amount, he will have to reasonably explain as to why he could not do so. He has to show a bona fide reason that he is unable to do so. In case the court feels that the reason for delay in payment of maintenance amount is not bona fide, or the husband is trying to escape his liability of paying the maintenance, the court can definitely attach the movable and the immovable properties of the husband. Is the husband liable to pay when the wife is able to maintain herself, who is also the custody of the child, or she can only file for child maintenance? The answer to this would be that what is the earning capacity of the wife and what is the earning capacity of the husband. For example, if the husband earns about ₹1,00,000 a month and the wife earns about 20,000 a month, and the court decides upon that the actual expense of the child is 20,000 a month, the court will definitely bind both the parties to pay 10,000 each towards the welfare of the child, but the court will also grant maintenance amount to the wife as there is a huge discrepancy between the incomes of both the parties. So in this particular case, if the wife is able to prove that the expenses to maintain herself and her child is way beyond the source of her income, the husband is bound to maintain both the wife and the child, and the maintenance is to be decided accordingly. If husband is handicapped and wife is in job, in that case can husband demand for maintenance? Definitely yes. Section 25 of the Act, Section 25 or 24 of the Hindu Marriage Act states categorically that either of the spouse can claim maintenance. So in this case, if a husband is handicapped, unable to work, unable to maintain himself, does not have properties, the wife can be directed to maintain the husband depending upon her source of income. And there's a question that comes is, an adulterous wife cannot seek maintenance under the Hindu marriage. Applying the first thumb rule, the act itself states that a lady who is living in an adulterous relation cannot seek maintenance. There is a judgment, which I correctly recall, passed by the Bombay High Court in 2017, which states, it's a division bench judgment which states that a lady who is found to be living in adultery cannot claim maintenance. As far as the citation is concerned, Mimamsa, who is my learned friend, has asked this query. I shall look upon the citation and should apprise you of the same. So do you agree that there should be some percentage directed by the apex court as per the salary of the husband, because the money or maintenance demanded by the wives are too hefty to be managed by the husband? See, it is incumbent upon the husband to maintain the wife, to maintain a legally wedded wife and his child, irrespective of what is his earning. Suppose if a wife is not earning, is a homemaker, is not educated, and is unable to support herself and the child, then there is no straitjacket formula that the husband is bound to pay only 25 or either 50% of the salary. There can be situations wherein the child who is in the custody of the mother is suffering from a medical ailment involving huge expenses, involving huge cost. Say maybe ranging to 5,000 to 7,000 a month. Then it is not only incumbent upon the husband to pay 25% of his salary or 25% of his income toward the maintenance of wife and the child individually, but can also be directed to wither away with more than 50% of his salary. It all depends upon the facts and circumstances of the case, and the courts will have to apply the reasonable prudence and reasonable mind while deciding upon these applications. As far as the judgment on adultery is concerned, if a woman is found to be living in an adulterous relation, the same would be applicable to the provisions of section 125 of the CRPC as well. And even in a living relationship, the Supreme Court has held in Lalita Topo that under the DV Act, one can go and claim maintenance before the court. Thank you to all my friends. It was a great session today. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'm sure that we'll all come out together with this pandemic and resume working. Thank you.